Watching Kyle's unboxing videos again?
Yeah, he always finds the coolest... No way! A robot dog? Gotta ask where he got it.
Or use your Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. Just draw a circle around the dog on your screen, and it shows you where to buy it right in the app.
Whoa, I just learned a new trick. And that for once, I beat Kyle to the next big thing.
Circle it, find it with the new Galaxy S24 Ultra and circle the search with Google. Get yours now at Samsung.com. Internet connection required. Results may vary based on visuals.
Welcome back to It's Only a Game podcast. This is part 2 of episode 28 with Mark from Project Football Podcast. So we hope you enjoy this particular episode. We've also got some more voice notes from friends of the pod and other podcasts as well. We've got Adam Malone, who is a Man United fan, one of our good friends. He's at the back of this episode as well on the voice notes, as well as Dan from Talk Forest TV. We've got Dan Griffin from Unbooking the Territory podcast and the Doctor Who podcast. We also have Gab Sutton on his thoughts on Sutton-Colchester game from the weekend. So thank you very much for tuning in and all the best.
Greg, very quickly as well, they've got no fans, they've got no ground, they're part-time, but they beat you, was it 3-2? You've gone from beating Sheffield United and Southampton to losing the Wellston a decade. What the hell's going on with you there, mate? That's, even by your standards, that's...
Is it?
Sorry, but it's not good enough, is it? It's not good enough.
It could have been anybody in terms of... I don't think it's just the case that it was Wealdstone Road. Not Wealdstone Road, yeah. It's not just because it's them. It could have been anybody. You're 2-0 up against anybody. You could be 2-0 up against Tranmere, for instance, or Bury, Oldham, whoever, Wigan. You can't lose 2-3. It doesn't matter who you're playing. Usually when it's 1-0, you're looking for the cushion. Then you get the second goal. You think you should be okay there. I'm baffled by it sometimes. I was looking at some of the results recently that we've had, and we're scoring 2, 3, and 4 goals and not winning games. And it's like, how can that be? In terms of, I don't know if it's a mentality thing, or how can you be so ahead and then just crumble, but consistently? Things like that used to happen to us in the lockdown season, and.
It's lockdown season vibes all over again. 4-4 draws and the Ryan Barry Murphy. It's chaos.
Under BBM, as you say, we were drawing 4-4 with, I can't remember, Scunthorpe, for instance. Can't remember who it were, but that was consistently every time. Wigan, Charlton were 4-4 away from home. That was heart attack football. And sometimes it's not enjoyable to watch when it's your team. I know it's okay if you're watching, for instance, at the weekend, Chelsea City. I weren't really rooting for any of them, but that was fairly entertaining, you could say. It's okay when it's not your team, but when it is your team, it's awful. It's like some of it can be, I don't know, it's not good for the heart, some of it. But I think we just need to really pinpoint. I think we just need to get back to basics. I know it sounds. One of the Dale fans is got a voice note on this episode that I'll be dropping in as well. It's called Stig. He run about what's it going to take really, in terms of it's not great and things like that. But it's it could be worse because there's one of the lads that listens to one of these our podcast episodes, Dan Griffin from the Unbooking the Territory podcast, is a York City fan. He's on about York City in one of his voice notes that'll get it included as well. And he said, like, the lofty heights of 9th with Rochdale, like, he wishes that York were that far ahead. I was thinking, actually, maybe are we overreacting if we're in 9th? Is it really the end of the world? And that really put things into perspective for me, that, like, obviously York City fans, they're lower down in the division, and everything's all relevant to who you support, I think, sometimes, in terms of what's the end of the world for us isn't the end of the world for another team, isn't end of the world for another team, and things like that. But yeah, maybe we should just sort of isolate that one and try and try and win at the weekend. I think we're playing Aldershot at home on Saturday at Scotland. But yeah, it was disappointing because any team, it could be West Brom, could be Everton, could be Tranmere. You're 2-0 up. You want something from the game, really. You don't want to be losing all the points, and that was the only. I don't really get miffed anymore with Rochdale, but I was really miffed with that result at the weekend. I'm usually quite positive with, well, at least this has happened, or at least that's happened. But what can you take that's a positive of away from home, 2-0 up, and then losing 2-3? But I think if as a club, if we can just sort of like isolate that particular result and then try and move on and make sure we don't replicate it like the previous games that have been 4-4, and we played Oldham recently and that was 4-3 to Oldham and that was end to end. Some of the people that sponsor Rochdale Football Club, like match ball sponsors, are like, oh, they don't go to Rochdale games. Some of them are like, oh, it was such a good game, but like some of our fans are like ranting and raving on Twitter, and it's that's where we are at the minute, Jim. That's where we are at the minute. We can't seem to in recent weeks to get any wins, and if we do, we have to score 3 goals, which is it's not the best strategy or place to be, is it? Really, you could do with winning a game 2-1 or 1-0, and then that's building from that, really. But that's where we are at the minute, Jim. That's where we are.
Well, speaking of positives, Aldershot at home. I mean, it should be a nice calm game, since Aldershot went to Swindon in the FA Cup and won 7-4. So that will be nice and calm
even
for you.
Mob couldn't keep up with that.
Yeah, even Mob was saying it was 8-0 at one point, which it wasn't.
I bet that crashed the app, probably.
Oh, it was amazing. And to be fair, it was absolutely banter, the highlights of that game. Speaking of goal fest, quickly before we move on, anyone catch that 4-4 draw between Chelsea and City? I mean, literally one of the games of the season.
Back end of it, yeah.
I missed it. But anyone catch it?
Yeah,
I tend to avoid watching the big clubs, to be honest with you.
You could see that something was going to come of it, but I just didn't think it. Obviously, it didn't go the way of Chelsea in the end, obviously, with drawing. But I did think City were going to pull away and get another and really solidify the win. So I was made up just for. I mean, I can't stand City, I can't stand Chelsea, but just in terms of keeping it open and keeping it interesting, obviously, for the rest of the season. Then you've got to look at, in terms of Liverpool, I don't think people really thought that they'd be. They should be up there in and around for kind of top 4. But at the minute, City are dropping points and Liverpool seem to be a little bit more consistent, maybe. So hopefully an interesting running for kind of the rest of the Premier League season, as opposed to it just being a one-trick pony, as it has been for the last couple of years. So
I had no doubt Liverpool would be up there. I had absolutely no doubt. They're always up there. And when they're not up there, they're still good. So,
annoyingly good.
My views are somewhat skewed. My views are somewhat skewed on that lot. But in the interests of a title race between 3-4 clubs would obviously be far better than a one-horse race. City winning 4 in a row, as good as they are, it would make a mockery of what's supposed to be the quote-unquote best league in the world, when the same club just spends the small fortune of a country and wins the league every year.
So you're ultimately playing for second, aren't you?
Yeah.
But, well, we're playing for fourth, so it says it all. That's it. And that's if we don't even get a points deduction. But no, that's what I mean. The likes of Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal, playing for second, essentially.
Absolutely.
Way. So no, I mean, I do hope there's something of a title race this year, and it shows a City are vulnerable, losing to Wolves and dropping points against Chelsea, and they've dropped points in another game. I completely forgot who it was now. They lost to Arsenal, of course. So
I think the difference with the Chelsea game at the weekend, as I say, I mean, and I'm probably make myself out sound like a right idiot now. I don't watch a lot of Premier League football, but Chelsea, just looking at the bits of the game that I watched and then the highlights, are one of the first teams I've seen in a very long time who actually went and attacked against City. Because if you look, if you're, unless you are an exceptional team in the Prem, one of the kind of top 3 or 4 sides, your default is going to be get men behind the ball, possibly look to counter-attack. And even then, with the pace of the likes of Walker, etc., your counter-attack isn't really feasibly on. But Chelsea kind of took it to City. City didn't defend particularly well. Nor did Chelsea. It was kind of like a end-to-end, whoever shoots most is going to score goals kind of game from the bits that I watched. But they actually took the game to them, and it'll be interesting to see, obviously, in coming weeks, if other teams attempt to do the same. Because if you try and sit back and defend against City with the hopes of, snatching 1 or 2 on the counter-attack, you're going to concede 6 or 7. That's just the nature of the beast, isn't it? So fair play to Chelsea for actually taking it to them. Yeah.
I don't think Chelsea are that bad a side. People mock them because of the poor season last season, but I think they're a far more attacking and much better team people give them credit for. Obviously, when you spent literally £1 billion in a year, then you should be a bloody good side. But
I mean, they're the equivalent of a Saturday morning trip to Home Bargain, aren't they? You come out having spent £50 with a bag full of shite. That is what Chelsea are. Isn't it? Like,
no, mate, that's made
money
made
and who they are. No, I know.
That's Everton the last 7 years.
Do you want a quick mention on Everton, Jim, and then we can get to the back end of the pod? Yeah.
All I'll really say very quickly is I'm impressed with how quickly we're starting games. We've scored more, now sort of stats, we've scored more goals in the first minute of the quote unquote in the Premier League era, more goals in the first minute of the game in the Premier League than any other club in the history of Premier League, which I found very surprising, seeing as we're usually slow starters, slow finishers, slow in the middle, just generally a bit slow, always. We usually like record stats for losing games or goals conceded or whatever. I think there's been a few games this season we've won where last year, especially under Lampard, we'd lost. Very impressed with the away form. Why can't we play in London every week? We seem to be better there than at home. But we have got United at home next game after the international break, which people say, oh yeah, United are in shit. Well, no, they've won 4 of the last 5. They're weirdly in form, even though they're not playing great. And it'd be very United to come to Goodison and do a job on us, because people have this perception because of all the crisis going on there and things aren't going that great. And they lost to Copenhagen and Galatasaray. Well, okay. But they're still eking out results in the Premier League. And I think ultimately it's going to be a really tough fixture. So we'll just see. And again, always lingering back on our minds the prospect of that points deduction. I know my opinion on points deductions. Generally, I've maintained my opinion on points deductions ever since Luton did up to 30 points back in 2008. I don't think they're the right way to go. I'm not just saying that now because Everton are faced with one. I think it spoils the integrity of the league table, personally. Everyone's going to have different opinions on that. And that's fine. Like I say, it's not just my opinion now because we're faced with one. Phil McNulty's come out and said today he reckons we'll stay up even if we are at a points deduction, which means we're getting relegated and we're not winning another game between now and the end of the season. It's an absolute death knell for us. So, no, I'm impressed with the midfield, which is the first time I've said that in about a decade. And it shows that we're more than just getting goals from Calvert-Lewin. There's goals from Decore, from obviously Idrissa Gueye. Mikalenko's got 2 and 2, which, considering he's been a fairly rank average left back for most of his time, the club, I'm really impressed. Dyche's getting the best out of an okay group of players, so I can't complain, even though I pretty much always do. So yeah. We'll see what the future holds. I'm not getting too excited over this recent little spurt of form.
It's good to get ahead, I guess, in terms of it's good to get these results at least. I know what you're saying, Jim, in terms of we can all, find not negative, but in terms of we can all moan about bits, can't we? But wins are wins, aren't they? In one regard,
they are indeed. Thinking we do the listener question. We have got a listener question, haven't we? Yeah. Great, which I think is quite an interesting topic, actually. Come from Baz, who at Bazza080808, who, for the eagle-eyed and eagle-eared amongst you, was the Newcastle family guest on our last podcast, who has asked about, particularly with Newcastle, but I think it's a general question. What do you think of the vote to stop clubs loaning from another club the owners have an interest in? So this obviously relates to the talk about Ruben Neves going from Al Hilal to Newcastle in January, from with all the Saudi money and things. He says there are roughly 8 Premier League clubs that would be affected. However, the vote has only been done now because Newcastle have expressed an interest in Neves. So, what are our thoughts on maybe balancing transfers between clubs with the same owner? Is it anti-Newcastle? Is it something that should have been done a long time ago? Is it something... Just what are our thoughts with it all, really? this whole circumventing of ownership to bring players in.
Was that so? That was basically. I'm trying to think back in terms of. So basically, when Lampard went to America, is that anything in terms of?
That was linked with it. Yeah, I mean, New York City signed him from Chelsea on a free, and then loaned him out to Man City. And then he actually tried to stay at Man City longer because obviously City Football Group own both clubs. There's things with Girona, currently top of La Liga. Okay, they've only got 2 City loanees in their team, which is somewhat sour in the news of how well they're doing, 2 points clear in La Liga. Obviously, the Red Bull clubs as well, with a lot of players going from Salzburg to Leipzig. There's obviously now the Saudi situation with Sam Maximan going to Al Ahly for 40 odd million quid when he was a bench warmer at Newcastle. What are our thoughts on the idea of multi-club ownership and sort of moving players between them? Should it be banned? Is it only an anti-Newcastle thing now? What's the general consensus, do you think?
My thing on it is, it's just I just think it takes away the integrity of football, because if you are, an owner of a club, and you're that kind of like custodian of the club for whatever amount of time you're there as owner, whether it be 12 months, 12 years, 100 years, whatever, that club's yours. And yeah, they're run as businesses and this, that, and the other. But I think if you have interest in, obviously, it doesn't happen in terms of clubs in the same country and so on, but surely you should be investing, not necessarily financially, but all your time and whatnot into making that one club successful. There's always also that fear or the potential of that kind of like asset stripping, whereby, exactly like as you're saying there, you go in and you kind of buy out 2 clubs, one lesser than the other, but they may have talented players or staff or whatever. You strip them of their assets and then you sell them on, and then you kind of leave, and it's I don't know. There's that element, isn't there, of kind of that big club bullying the smaller club for whatever they want and need, and at what point does that stop? Does someone just come in and go, right, I'm going to buy one team in every division, or one team in every country in Europe, and then fiddle your signings that way? You've got the potential of money laundering. It doesn't make any sense to me. It's not. Yes, they are businesses, and I think as fans we've got to remember that at times, that when people come in and they invest in serious money into clubs, they are businesses, and they're not kind of what we see on a Saturday or a Tuesday or whatever. But yeah, it just doesn't sit right with me, because it's like a conflict of interest more than anything for me. Regardless of what you could have a team in Mexico and a team in Iceland, but there's still that conflict of interest of, oh well, they do really well for that club, or they do. It's not for me, I'm afraid. But then I'm very old school. I'm also anti-VAR. That's another discussion for another pod. But yeah, for me, it's a no.
Doesn't the guy who owns Watford own Udinese as well? And they were doing a lot of deals with each other, weren't they?
Yes, the Pozzos have got, Watford, Udinese, and I think they had Granada. I don't know if they still do. As in the football team, not the
old channel.
Northwest ATV. Yeah.
You got is it the guy at Forest owns one of the Greek teams as well?
Yes. Marinakis owns Olympiakos as well. There's been a few transfers between Forest and Olympiakos. I think Josh Bowler was one example. He went from Blackpool to Forest and then ended up weirdly getting loaned out to Olympiakos, played along. He'd gone from playing for Blackpool in League One or the Championship to playing alongside James Rodriguez at Olympiakos at one point. So mad little career trajectory for him there. I can see why some Newcastle fans now, would think, oh, this is anti-Newcastle, it's being brought in now. This is something that should have been knocked on the head years ago. And the buck stops with FIFA and UEFA. I remember a time when I think Abramovich first bought Chelsea. I know, right? Shock horror, the FIFA and UEFA aren't accountable for this. But I say FIFA because obviously UEFA have no jurisdiction of the Saudi clubs because they're AFC, Asian Confederation clubs, for now. But hey, let's see what happens there in the future with the Champions League. Jesus Christ.
Believe you me.
Oh, of course it will. But I do remember Abramovich when he bought Chelsea, there was talk from having interest in CSK and Moscow at the time. And it was like, well, that's a conflict of interest. You can't have 2 clubs in the same confederation because what if they face each other in Europe? And I think then he didn't get involved with one of his Russian clubs for whatever reason. And then since then, you've had the RB Leipzig and Red Bull Salzburg issue where Red Bull go, oh no, we don't own RB Leipzig, we just sponsor RB Leipzig. We own Salzburg, but we don't. And it's like, really, though? You're literally the same club in a different country, and all this. And then, obviously, the transfers are going between there, where Salzburg now, despite dominating Austrian football, literally are a feeder club for Leipzig, which is shocking for all involved in the Austrian football world, because that's an entire Nations League basically shut on by an energy drink company. And I just feel like it's something that, and it's, of course they are, I should stress, yeah. Of course, we all know how good Monster Reykjavik are in the Icelandic League. But Monster Tranmere...
I'm open to it. I'm open to it.
Full on green kiss.
Oh, no.
But no, I just think it's stable door horse bolted, isn't it? Like it's. We all knew the Neves to Newcastle thing was going to happen. As soon as he went to Al Hilal, we were like, well, if Guimaraes picks up an injury, or this is before we knew about Tonali's issues, or before even Tonali had even signed the Newcastle thing, I don't know. We were going, well, that's obvious what's going to happen there. Whereas you'd think in a normal world, Newcastle would have just gone to Wolves in the summer and gone, here's 50 million. Can we have Neves? And they'd have gone, yeah, okay. Which Champions League club buys best player at mid-table club is not particularly scandalous. It happens. But the fact that they're circumventing it with the Saudi Pro League and the money there, and what then stop, players like Mane coming over, Benzema coming over, I mean, it's probably not going to happen. And what stopped the Saudis going, right, we'll buy Valencia, we'll buy Roma, we'll buy Ajax, and maybe not a German club because of 50+1 rule, but then what stopped them basically having this like lottery of European clubs that they can build from the ground up, fallen giants like an Ajax, like a Roma, like a Valencia, like Newcastle, really, and say, right, we're going to move all these players to Saudi and then move them back over to various clubs around Europe, and it just becomes a big pawn which literally one nation controls. And I don't even think I'm not even saying it's because it's the Saudi thing. It could be anyone, could be Todd Bowley, it could be I don't know, Jeff Bezos, if he was interested in football, with that much money, other billionaires are available. I just think the idea of one entity controlling that much football, for me, I don't believe you should be owning multiple clubs. I think it is a conflict of interests, and I just feel, whilst I can understand Newcastle fans saying it's an anti-Newcastle thing, I think this is now only been brought to light because of that, but it's something that I feel needs to have already been addressed a long time ago, because it is wrong that owners are circumventing rules to bring players into their club via other clubs and via third party and all that kind of stuff, which goes way back to like Tevez and Mascherano rocking up at West Ham that time randomly, and it is going back to the super agents. Oh God, yeah, and it's been some real dodgy ones down the years, hasn't there? So,
yeah. Do you think it might have been a case of, because of how much money the Saudi League's been throwing around in these transfers? Do you think that sort of woken a few people up and it's like, hang on a sec, they've got the joint owners of Newcastle and, was it Al Hilal you said?
Yeah, they own Al Hilal, Al Nazir, Al Ahly and Al Ittihad.
The fact that Newcastle have got mega rich owners who own a club in the league that's throwing money around for fun, and it's just not just click, but that's sort of almost like the straw that broke the camel's back, possibly. And I think, right, now we need to do something about it because of those amounts of money, or I don't know, a theory. I
think you're right, and I think as well, whereas we've seen, like, for example, Man City's relationship with Girona or the Salzburg-Leipzig relationship, that's about developing young talent. So City loaned out, for example, like a Patrick Roberts out, or I think Eric Garcia went on loans at Girona. I may be getting that one wrong. They've loaned out young, like, reserve talent or just young players. Likewise, Salzburg will sell their best young talent to Leipzig, whereas it's been a pathway for youth development. Whereas I think this one, we're now seeing ready-made established superstars going to Saudi, which, if that's their choice, they want to make that money, that's, look, if anyone put that much money in front of us, it's up to us whether we decide to or not. They can't control what they're offered at the end of the day, footballers, as much as we maybe disagree with how much they're offered and the means by what's gone on. But the fact that it's now a case of a way of getting all these mega superstars into Saudi and then sort of back into, say, Newcastle or indeed another European club. And the fact that it's going outside of UEFA's jurisdiction almost, and the Premier League and everyone are kind of going, oh, right, we can't control this anymore. What can we do to stop this? Now it's going out. Like you say, yeah, it's getting out of hand. And like, yeah, I think it is a case of the straw that broke the camel's back. It just happens to be that it's Newcastle that appear to be taking the blame for it, which I think is somewhat unfair because they're far from the only ones. As Baz mentioned, there's 8 clubs in the league. If Everton get bought up by 777, there's a chance that we're part of multi-club ownership. I don't want to be a part of circumventing with like Standard Liège and Hertha Berlin and Genoa players. Not that I know many of their players, but you don't want that for your club. You want things to be legitimate and honest, and we're already foul of enough financial issues as it is. We don't need bloody more coming our way, so Christ.
So you want your owners to focus on you as well, don't you, rather than sort of have, like I say, splitting the time between 3-4 others?
Absolutely. And I mean, I should stress, I'm all for sort of relationships between clubs. For example, if, say, Rochdale were to get a relationship with, I don't know, I'll say Blackburn Rovers, whereby Rochdale had dibs on like the best youth players at Blackburn to go on loan or something, where you've got separate owners, separate clubs, but there's a pathway there, you know, for them to go on loan for a year and what have you. I'm all for that. But if it's the same owner and the same ownership group in both clubs, then in the end, you don't want your club to end up just becoming a farm club, a farm team. Basically, your aim as a club is to develop players for another football team. Well, that's not the spirit of football. You might as well introduce B teams into the league at that point, which obviously we're all absolutely against, I would suspect. But that's
why I'm not a fan of v Wigan tonight. Ultimately.
Well, yeah, because it is essentially, it's that tournament is
idiotic trophy now. It takes away then it goes back to that integrity, doesn't it? And you go back to that, and that absolutely. What you were saying there in terms of becoming feeder clubs. That's what a lot of League One, League Two, and to an extent some lower Championship teams are now having to rely on. That they're having to rely on. You know, we let someone in. You know, we take a chance on them. They've been released from wherever. We get 12 months of good service out of them, and then we sell them on for a profit. And you're thinking, you know, at what point then can you actually build as a club yourself? Do you know what I mean? And that, as you say, that will then begin to happen. Should the multi-club ownership, you know, really become a thing? One slight change on it though, and I think this would be fairly interesting to kind of see, and it probably has happened in certain respects. Is for these kind of big corporate businesses to come in and buy, you know, an American football team, normal football team, basketball team, ice hockey team, rugby team, etc., and to see the kind of success of having a kind of almost like, I don't like saying the word in football in terms, but franchise of, you know, clubs with the same kind of ethos, etc., but spread across, you know, 5 or 6 different disciplines, and the kind of feasibility of that. I don't know, just a slightly different take on it.
I guess we are kind of seeing that with the, I will now not name the energy drink, with the F1 and the extreme sports, as well as obviously
absolutely
the football clubs around the world. I guess we are, that's close, I think we can, unless there's anything else more obvious. I can't see anything else that's similar. Other than I think maybe the Kraft Zone in New England Revolution and the New England Patriots over in the US. Whether the Kraft family still own both, I'm not entirely sure. But I know what you mean. It'd be intriguing would it be intriguing, or would it just be a bit weird if, for example, a business came in and said, I'm going to buy a rugby club, a football club, an F1 team, a cricket team, I'm going to start sponsoring tennis players. Like a multi-sport thing.
There'll be some idiot that'll do it just to flex that they've got the money. That's ultimately.
Well, I guess that's what we're seeing. I guess what we're seeing with Saudi as well. They're investing in far more than we think. Sporting wise, they're obviously investing in the F1 football. They want to bring other sports to Saudi as well. And Qatar at one point was looking at hosting the rugby. I don't know what the rugby culture is like in Qatar, but I don't think it's brilliant.
I'd say probably limited
from the locals. I'd say it's not a lot of rugby in Qatar at the moment, but that's what I mean. They're trying to branch out now in certain areas to include multiple sports and things, which, okay. I guess that's as close as we're seeing so far without it being a direct sort of sponsorship from a company.
Sorry, I got a little bit distracted there. Tranmere have just done a Tranmere and missed an open goal from 2 yards out. Maybe no, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. 3 yards out.
That's not bad.
No,
that's like was it Carnu against Middlesbrough in the?
I'll
just beat you to that.
I was going to ask you earlier actually if you went to that game where Carnu had the worst miss I'd ever seen.
Yep, it was down the opposite end to me, so I didn't see it in all its glory, but it was still bad enough from the opposite end of the ground.
Oh, that was something else. Champions League winner Carnu won everything with Arsenal as well, and just like
if he was half a boot size smaller, that'd have been nestling.
Absolutely,
yeah,
guaranteed.
He was. What was he? Didn't he have like size 15 feet or something?
Ridiculous. Yeah, his feet were literally like canoes.
That's
That brings us back to what would you rather? Would you rather wear football boots 2 sizes too big or 2 sizes too small? In that instance, Carney would definitely.
He probably had them too big. Yeah, probably.
Indeed.
Just, I mean, going off topic slightly, but I don't know if Deck remembers this, but I went to the last Tranmere game of the 20th century against Walsall away.
Oh, okay.
Ooh.
Not that that's any sort of claim to fame or anything, but yeah, I mean...
I've spoken about Walsall's ground a few times. It has improved. The first time I went there, you had to queue up through the gents' toilets to get a burger at half-time. So the way they'd like double doors and the dates underneath the stand.
That wasn't a burger, Dak.
No, it was
that was something else, mate.
Rather average-looking hot dog, actually.
I don't think that was a hot dog either. If it was something long and solid,
I was going to say, mate.
Chances are something had been flushed away previously.
I think you've been violated, mate.
Not again. The last game of the 20th century. That's a bit of history, that, isn't it?
That's just something that's always stuck me up. Was it? I think like John Achterberg was in goal, possibly.
All-time favourite player.
Yeah.
What a
get out! Get out! That's all he used to. That's all he shouted. I think that was the only English he knew at the time. What a man! Yeah, Achterberg. Trying to think who else will have been in that squad. 2000.
The 99-2000 season, so it would have been division. Well, what's now the Championship?
Ruben Hazel, etc.
Would have had Steve Yates, Kumas.
Yeah, Kumas would have been playing.
The team that made the League Cup final, basically Parky, Kelly,
Gary Jones,
obviously Joe Murphy on the bench, ex-West Brom as well. Who's now back at Rovers.
He could be one for that. You know,
your mate and mine,
decades team. He could be in from like 90s, noughties, 10s, and 20s.
Oh, all the decades.
If you want him in,
you got options there, haven't you?
He's a versatile option, isn't he?
Indeed. Just on the Tranmere West Brom theme, weirdly, I've just had a flashback that I don't know if you'd have come to this game now, Mark, at Prenton Park, and it was the final game of the 98-99 season. Rovers played West Brom, Prenton Park. Exactly. No, I think Fabius de Freitas scored for you.
Oh, bloody hell.
Exactly. I remember you all had like big inflatable balloons in the away end and stuff, and we're singing Fabian de Freitas the entire 90 minutes. I seem to remember. Again, I was like an 8-year-old child at the time. I remember, I think George Santos scored for Rovers.
Oh, Santos.
So, I mean, I think it was George Santos scored for us. Probably, yeah. He got sent off in most games he played, didn't he? But I remember being 3-1 Rovers in the last game of the season. I don't know much else about it. Admittedly, like I say, I was only a literal child at the time, but I just one of those memories. I go, oh yeah, I remember that West Brom that day, wasn't it? It was a hell of an atmosphere.
The last day of the season normally, isn't it? If you've got nothing to play for.
Yeah, well, yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, now, but I remember at the time going, what the bloody hell's going on in there? Because I didn't realise it was the last game of the season. I just thought, this lot are having a mad party, just like getting all the inflatables out, and some probably unspeakable inflatables, to be honest with you, but that's dead season vibes,
probably not the most random thing we've took to an away game on the last day was a coffin in the early 90s. Fratton Park. Right. I think we were proper down in the depths of, well, let's say what is now the Championship, and I think the season we went down possibly. So it would have been around about 91, 92 somewhere. I mean, I was only a kid myself at that point.
Yeah.
But I think someone like Bobby Gould was in charge, and we brought a coffin onto the pitch. Yeah. Then obviously Ozzy Ardiles came in, 92, 93, took us up by the playoffs. And happy days.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. I forgot. You dropped into what is now League One.
Didn't do the double drop though, like Wolves did, just saying.
No, didn't go through all the divisions. No. Just always got that on them.
It was our 5-1 win that started off that spiral for him. Because then they sacked McCarthy.
McCarthy got Terry Connor in.
Yep. And then was it some Norwegian fella? Or no, was it Dean
Solbakken?
Solbakken, yeah.
Solbakken.
And it just went from bad to worse for him. But hey, it's fair to say they've got the upper hand on us now, so fair enough.
But that can all change within a season. You could go up, they could go down. Yeah, stranger things about.
Who knows?
Okay, no, folks. Do you want me to do the? I've got 2 music questions. Do you think, and then we can wrap up? Are you lads okay with that? Super. I'm just
absolutely.
This is Olivia, by the way, 13-week-old. So I'm just going to pass her back over to Shell in a second. Well, I'll do it in a minute, actually.
And she's still got better bladder control than Greg.
Better than Jimmy, anyway. So yeah. Oh, Jimmy's back now.
That's multitasking for you, podcasting and parenting at the same time.
Well, dog parenting, but dog was whimpering at me to go out. And he's just turned 12, literally yesterday
as well, whilst he was up, haven't you?
Bless him. Hang
on, we on about Jimmy or the dog?
The dog, although I wouldn't put it beyond me at the moment. Hello, Olivia. You all right, lovely? Just for context, Greg's daughter is on the pod. Still need to go and meet Olivia. Hello, lovely.
Right, so the 2 questions. So it was about a couple of weeks ago. The Beatles and the Rolling Stones released new music, which was quite unusual in terms of 2 bands from years ago. Obviously, both competing in the charts, weren't they, at the time? Both released new music. So I'm doing a top 5s of. Oh, hang on, she spattered me out. Hang on a minute. Right, so the most streamed top 5 Beatles songs. Oh, you can right. There you go. Yeah. So it's the top 5s most streamed Beatles songs of all time. So number 5, if you get the 5th one, you get 5 points. If you get the 4th one, you get 4 points. 3, 3, 2, 2, and 1, 1. So you could go obvious, but you could get 1 point. I think Deck's just trying to figure that one out in terms of what you might go for. So yeah, if we can all answer one each, that'd be spot on. So it's the top 5 most streamed Beatles songs of all time. Whenever you're ready, lads.
So I've got a couple. Sorry, just going back to my show for a little bit of self-promotion, sorry. One of the Brits I bought in recently, I called it Play on Words, and basically getting people to mash football with something else. And I think the Beatles was the first one. Was it Oasis? I've definitely done the Beatles early on in that.
Right.
So that was, again, just a bit of a laugh. So, but I've got 2 written down already. One of them's
okay. I'll
quite obvious.
Jot these down, and then I don't forget.
And I dare say that the ones that Jimmy and Deck have come up with already. It's Hey Jude.
You're going for Hey Jude. That's your answer.
I'll go with Come Together.
Oof. And Jimmy's. What do you reckon, Jim?
I reckon there's a lot of primary school teachers that stream the Beatles with Yellow Submarine because it's one that all the music teachers teach the kids.
I'm just going to figure out who
Good shout.
got here. Got to jot them all down.
Big up the primary school
My
teachers.
knowledge of top 5s, I always get them wrong.
Okie dokie. So, top 5s, we've got our answers. I've got the answers as well. So, the most streamed Beatles song is Come Together. So that's 1 point for Deck. Deck's got 1 point. Jimmy, you went for Yellow Submarine. That was 8th, unfortunately. So you haven't got any points, unfortunately. Mark has gone for Hey Jude, and that's 3rd. So Mark's got 3 points. So Mark wins that round. So yeah.
Bravo.
My other one, I don't know if it was in the top, but my other one was Paperback Writer, randomly. That was just the other one that come to
Mine
mind.
was going to be Blackbird. I like that one.
That's from Boss Baby, isn't it?
So number 1 is Come Together. Number 2 is Let It Be. Number 3 is Hey Jude.
Of course.
Number 4 is Here Comes the Sun, apparently. Number 5 is Yesterday.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
6, Twist and Shout. 7 is Blackbird. Somebody mentioned Blackbird.
Huh?
Yeah. 8 is
definite.
Yellow Submarine. 9, All You Need Is Love. And 10, Something. Something. So Max won that question. And we're going to do the same with the Rolling Stones. So we're going to go for the Rolling Stones 5 most streamed songs. I just thought we'd tie in the Rolling Stones and the Beatles having new releases, which is quite a thing, isn't it, really, when you think about what year it is as well. Okay, so we're looking for the Rolling Stones top 5 most streamed songs of all time to date. And whatever
Satisfaction.
Deck's going for.
I can't get no.
Damn it. That's one off my list.
My Stones knowledge is terrible. So I'm going to go Sympathy for the Devil because it's the only one I can think of.
Right. Out of the 3 that I'd written down, I'm going to have to use my final choice now. Because those were the other 2.
Sorry, Mark. Sorry, mate.
Don't be. The one I've got left is Paint It Black.
Yeah.
But again, Stones is another one I've used in play on words as well.
Okie dokie. Brilliant. So.
Rolling John Stones.
Yeah.
There
Paint
you
It Black.
there you go. Okay, so the top 5 most streamed Rolling Stone songs of all time. Number 1 is I Can't Get No Satisfaction. So that's Deck. Deck's got 1 point.
Solid 2 points there in total. I'll take that.
Number 2.
Sounds like
Number 2 is Paint It Black. So I think that's 2 points for Mark. Number 3 is Angie. I don't think anybody said Angie, did we? No. Number 4 is Sympathy for the Devil. So is that you, Jim? 4 points.
It's Jimmy, yeah.
And then number 5 is Start Me Up. I'll go through the top 10 actually because we've got a few more there. So Start Me Up is number 5. 6 is Brown Sugar. 7, Wild Horses. 8, Gimme Shelter. 9, Jumping Jack Flash. And 10, Miss You. So I think Jimmy's won the that question as well. So Mark's won the first one and Jimmy's won the second question. Super duper. I mean, I do have one more, but it's up to you if you want to keep it as is there with 2 questions. It's up to you. One more and then we'll wrap up.
Should we go for one more?
Let's.
Super. Great stuff. So this is my favourite band of all time. I'm not saying they are the best, but they're my favourite. So I'm looking for the top 5 streamed Red Hot Chili Peppers songs of all time. So, yeah. So I'm ready when you are, gents. Got the Red Hot Chili Peppers, which have been going 40 years, which is a bit of a...
Blimey.
Yeah, when you think of it like that.
I'll go Snow.
Which is
Yeah. Super.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Under the Bridge.
Yeah. I'll have to go Californication.
I'm just trying to think of another one, but I'm going to stick with Under the Bridge.
Chili Peppers' top 5 streamed songs of all time. Number 1 is Under the Bridge. That's 1 point to Mark. Number 2 is Californication. So that's 2 points for Jimmy. 3 is Scar Tissue. 4 is Give It Away. 5 is By the Way. And 6 is Other Side. 7 is Danny California, sorry. 8 is Can't Stop. 9 is Snow Deck. It's in the top 10, but no points, unfortunately, Deck. So I think Jimmy's won there, I think, with 2 points with Californication. Gosh.
And we could sit here for 3 hours and argue which one of those tracks is best.
Yeah, of course, aren't they? Yeah.
They're all brilliant. They are.
I just thought I'd try and.
They are.
I'd get lost after the obvious ones because I'm not, that up on the chilies apart from what you hear on the radio and what have you. So yeah.
I might even go and put that album on. Just to wake
I've got 2 Chili's vinyls actually, Deck. I'll send you photos later. Yeah, absolutely.
Of the vinyls, Greg, not after last time.
Oh, aye, that's it.
Christ.
So that's my question section done there, Jim. It's I'll hand it over to you if you wish.
Well, enjoy that, Greg.
I must say, I much preferred that to Dale or No Dale, where we had to guess. For those who don't know, the uninitiated, guessing whether a Rochdale player was indeed a Rochdale player or a made-up figment of Greg's imagination from the mid-90s. Jesus Christ, I've not got one right yet in about 20 episodes.
He played for Dale, didn't he?
20 episodes. No,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he had a cheeky loan.
I think it was.
He went to
New
Walsall.
Testament. I think.
Yeah, cheeky spout the Bascott.
Old Testament. He was around Grimsby, I think, in the Old Testament when everything was, dull and boring.
Maybe. Yeah.
New Testament, though.
Was it the loaves and the fish? That's why he went to Grimsby.
It was. Yeah.
Feed the 5,000 away supporters. Right, anyway, that's probably going to get cancelled somewhere blasphemous. It always ends this way. Mark, where can we find you on the socials then, my mate?
I've got Twitter or whatever the hell they call it these days. It was Proj_foot. Instagram is Project Football Podcast. I've got Facebook as well, which I don't use as often. But if you just search for Project Football Podcast on there. And as for the show itself, all the usual podcast platforms, really. Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can get them. The good providers, the not so great ones, which is probably where it mostly ends up, but yeah.
Like this one, to be honest with you, mate.
I'm in good company, if that's the case.
You're mate. We've just made a joke about Jesus playing for Grimsby, so I mean, come on. Anything goes here, mate.
We used to chant that at Jonathan Greening, so
I mean, fair.
Yeah,
he did.
There's something about him and crosses, but we'll avoid that.
Yeah. It's not Easter yet. Anyway, so
the Rolling Stones.
Thank you very much, Mark.
I see what you did there, Jimmy. Easter. He rolled the stone away. Good segue to the end there, Jimmy. That's got us out of some deep waters.
Yeah.
Part of the Red Sea there, and we are. Go on. Anyway, with the Rolling Stones, on to your outro, son.
Indeed. Let's move on swiftly. John Swiftly. Right. So, thank you very, very much, Mark, for joining us this evening. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat with you, mate. You're welcome back at any time. If you want to come back, of course, maybe after Deck's comment, then probably you don't. Won't say I blame you.
If this is the bar we've set, then I'm all for it.
Oh, well, the bar is usually set way lower than this. We've been on best behaviour tonight.
Oh, well. Hopefully not on my account.
No, I don't know what's going on with us tonight, to be honest with you. Greg's usually edited out something I've said within the first 5 minutes, so...
he already has.
I don't put something libelous up. Yeah, he's already just like delete, cancel. The best way for me to be. Thank you, listener, if you've made it this far. Remember to find us on all the social media accounts that you can find us on with It's Only a Game. Just search it. We'll be around. We are, of course, part of the Sports Social Network, so we thank you very much for being part of that. And again, just remember, whether your team is top of the league, bottom league, or losing to part-timers, Greg, just remember, it's only a game. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us, Mark. Thank you.
Cheers, lads.
Take it easy. Bye for now.
No worries. Take care.
Dropping in some voice notes that we got from some of the other football podcasts and some of the friends of the podcast as well.
Hi guys, hope you're all well. Thank you for the great podcast. And it was good seeing all your teams win, so I bet that was a nice thing to celebrate together. I went to the United game versus Luton. I enjoyed the atmosphere because I've not been to a Premier League game for a while, and the Luton fans were in great vibes as well, so well done to them. For the game itself, I'll say my man of the match was Harry Maguire. He made some good passes to start attacks, and he moved forward with the ball quite a bit. And he also stopped a lot of Luton attacks before they could really hit us and hurt us on the counter. So I know Lindelof got the goal and they both played well, but for me, I'd say Harry Maguire was the man of the match. I also think Mason Mount played really well. He was brought on for Eriksen, and I think he added some much needed pace into the game, into just a transition from defence to attack. He would win the ball quite often, and he was quick to get the ball forward to the attackers and get an attack onto the opposition's goal. So I thought it was one of his better games for United, actually. And I'm hoping Højlund will get his first Premier League goal even soon, because he had a couple of chances against Luton. Also, Garnacho and Rashford had some chances, so we could have maybe won a bit more comfortably, but hopefully by the time the Everton game comes around, we'll sort that out and we'll win very comfortably. Sorry, Jimmy and Matt. But yeah, cheers lads, have a good one. Bye.
Hey guys, what's going on? It's Dan from Talk Forest TV. Thank you to the guys here for letting me come on and talking about this weekend's football, which has happened. I mean, there have been some very, very strange results, as I probably put it. I mean, when you look at it from that Wolves beating Spurs later on, that was a really good result from Wolves. They seem to be a really good team at half 12, then they are at 3 o'clock. And I mean, like, comfortable victories for Man United, even though they won 1-0. I mean, Arsenal winning as usual. But I think the biggest surprise for me was the Bournemouth Newcastle. I mean, I don't know if you guys, any of you guys, had Newcastle to win on that. You see sixes and all that, but I didn't see Bournemouth winning that comfortable as well. I mean, a really strange one, I think, to be fair, especially with Forest losing against West Ham. I mean, we were disappointed that we conceded the goals like we did against them, especially 2 set pieces. But hopefully that they can learn from that, to be fair. And when you look at that Man City game, and yeah, fair enough, Man City, I mean, but if you're neutral, it was a cracking game to watch, and I really enjoyed watching it. And I mean, it just shows that Chelsea's going to be up for the fight now. Man City, they're not going to get this league title on the plate, so I think it'd be interesting to say these. I mean, big up to Birmingham City and trying to bring in a very exciting brand of football. Big up to Shrek, aka Wayne Rooney, for, I mean, taking Birmingham to a new level. So, big round of applause. But yeah, I mean, when you look down the divisions as well, I mean, some of them are really decent scores, and I think it don't surprise me, to be fair, that some of the results came in like they did, because of how far they have been. Because when I look at that Crew game and they were 1-0 in the 98th minute and they're meant to be 94 minutes added on, I mean, where does the ref get that from? So I think when you look down the leads, I mean, they get pretty much like, yeah, the favourites winning, but I mean, the Premier League, it's anything can happen, so I think it'd be good. Thank you for having me on. Do hit me up on Talk Forest TV. I know all the socials, I know that, and up the Forest.
Now then, lads, it's Dan Griffin from Unbooking the Territory, the Doctor Who pod and the Volley. Thank you very much for asking me to contribute with my thoughts on some of the weekend's football. First and foremost, as a Liverpool fan, loved us being back to winning ways. Salah with a couple, Tsimikas with a couple of assists, weirdly. Annoyed I left him on my bench for fantasy football, but I won't dwell on Liverpool, as I know there's a couple of Evertonians among the ranks. So I'll look down the leagues and the National League. Great win away, York City, AFC filed, fellow relegation candidates, but a vital 3 points to drag York out of the relegation zone. So loving seeing that. We're not quite hitting the heady heights of Rochdale, but still really good to see. And Ryan Fallowfield getting in the National League Team of the Week, a player I'm very impressed with. The bits and pieces I've seen of him this season. So, yeah, love to hear your opinions on a bit of York City.
I think Colchester have definitely got the squad to climb the table, especially when a few players get back from injury. There's probably a few clubs in the bottom half of League Two at the moment who you'd feel that way about. And I think that's what makes it such a competitive league, really. But yeah, they've had a few players out, which has affected them. But they've really picked up under Matty Etherington. They'd have probably wanted more than that point against Sutton on Saturday, but I think lots of encouraging signs for the youth. As for Sutton, I think there's a bit of a concern for them that while they've probably got the best squad in their history, the best manager in their history, a lot of the synergy that they've and togetherness that have kind of been built up and allowed them to achieve what they have over the last 3 or 4 years, it's kind of dissipated a little bit, and especially probably the wide players like David Ajiboye and Will Randall are big losses, because I think in the 4-4-2 Matt Gray likes, you need runners because you need players who can both join up with the front two and stop them from getting isolated, but also protect the midfield too to stop them getting overrun. So I think those are really important roles in Sutton's system. And I think they seem to be sort of struggling without those sort of natural alternatives. Even if they've got, some players who are sort of maybe more gifted on paper, they've got the likes of Amari Patrick, for example, who's supposed to be a very good player at this level. Harry Smith as well scored goals for Leyton Orient. Ryan Jackson, very dependable League Two right back. So it's not as if they recruited badly as such, but I think the dynamics just a little bit off kilter. But I think with Colchester, what you've got is in Joe Taylor, a really exciting centre forward when he's on it, and when he's got the right sort of partner who can bring him into the game. I think he can be such a live wire and such a deadly finisher as well. So that's an obvious strong point. They've also got Arthur Reed, who's having a great season. I think once they've got Nico Lawrence up to full fitness, I think that's going to make a difference. He came in with some really good reviews from Torquay. So whether Matty Etherington can sustain this impact, I think remains to be seen. But certainly, I think Colchester have the means to climb the table. Whereas for Sutton, I think it's a case of they've got to rediscover this sort of identity and synergy that they've established over the previous few seasons.
Sports Social Podcast Network.